Have you ever wondered if there is a night when the boundary between life and death almost disappears? A night when the living and the dead could walk side by side, separated only by a veil as thin as mist. For the ancient Celts, that night had a name: Samhain. Long before Halloween, Samhain marked the turning of the seasons, the end of the harvest, and the beginning of the long, dark winter. But it was far more than a seasonal festival. Samhain was a cosmic checkpoint, a sacred moment when the rhythm of the sun, the earth, and the unseen world all aligned. Imagine bonfires blazing across the Celtic hills, warriors and farmers wearing strange masks to confuse wandering spirits, and families leaving food outside their doors for ancestors they believed would return that night. But why did the Celts choose this exact time of year for such a powerful ritual? And what secret connection does Samhain have with the hidden cycle of the sun? In this episode, we begin our journey into the mysteries of Samhain, peeling back layers of history, astronomy, and spirituality to uncover the true origins of this ancient festival. To understand Samhain, we must first step into the world of the Celts, a people who lived more than 2,000 years ago across Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and parts of continental Europe. Unlike the centralized empires of Rome or Egypt, the Celts were a collection of tribes, bound together by a shared culture, language, and spiritual worldview. For the Celts, nature was not just a backdrop to human life. It was alive, sacred, and filled with unseen forces. The changing seasons, the waxing and waning of the moon, and the rising and setting of the sun were not simply natural events. They were messages from the cosmos, guiding when to plant, when to harvest, and when to prepare for the silence of winter. Samhain emerged in this context as one of the most important festivals of the Celtic year. It marked the end of the agricultural season, the last chance to bring in crops and livestock before the frost. But it was also the beginning of the dark half of the year, when nights grew longer and survival became uncertain. In the Celtic worldview, endings and beginnings were never separate. To them, death and life were two sides of the same cycle. Samhain was not just about closing the year. It was about acknowledging the eternal rhythm that connects harvest and decay, life and death, darkness and light. Samhain was not chosen at random. Its timing reveals the Celts' deep understanding of the sun's rhythm across the sky. In the modern calendar, Samhain falls around October 31st to November 1st, but for the Celts, it marked a precise astronomical point, the midpoint between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice. The equinox had already brought balance, when day and night were equal. The solstice, still to come, would mark the longest night of the year. Samhain stood in the middle, a hidden marker in the sun's journey, signaling the tipping of the scales. Light was retreating, darkness was gaining power. For the Celts, this was not simply a shift in weather. It was a cosmic transition. To imagine this is to picture the ancient Celtic sky. Without telescopes or modern science, they watched the horizon, noting how the sun's rising and setting points slowly moved each day. Over generations, they built a calendar not on paper, but in the very stones of their sacred sites, aligned to track these celestial moments. Samhain's placement within this solar cycle gave it immense power. It was not just about the harvest ending. It was about recognizing a universal truth, that every cycle of light must give way to darkness, and in that darkness, a new cycle is prepared to begin. If Samhain marked a cosmic turning point in the sun's cycle, it also opened a doorway in the human imagination. For the Celts, this was the time when the boundary between the living and the dead became fragile, thin enough for spirits to cross. They believed that on Samhain night, the souls of ancestors returned to visit their families, walking once more among the living. This was not seen as frightening, but as sacred. To welcome them, families prepared offerings of food and drink, placed outside their homes as a gesture of respect. Fires were lit to guide the spirits, and prayers were whispered into the dark. Yet not all who crossed the veil were friendly. Wandering or malevolent spirits might also appear, seeking to cause harm. To protect themselves, people wore masks and disguises, blending with the night so that dangerous forces would pass them by. The act of dressing up, still seen in modern Halloween, began as a spiritual defense. In this way, Samhain symbolized the eternal balance between light and dark, safety and danger, life and death. It was a time of endings. The harvest was done, the days were fading, but also of beginnings, as the cycle prepared to renew. To the Celts, Samhain was proof that death was not an end, but a transition, part of the great rhythm of the universe. The rituals of Samhain were designed to honor the sacred transition of the year and to protect the community during the uncertain months ahead. At the heart of these ceremonies were fire and light. Massive bonfires were built on hilltops, their flames seen for miles. These were not ordinary fires, but sacred ones, believed to cleanse, to protect, and to strengthen the bond between the living and the spirit world. People and livestock often passed between two bonfires as a ritual of purification, carrying the blessing of flame into the long winter. Masks and costumes were another essential part of Samhain. Disguises served as protection, confusing harmful spirits that might wander through the night. What we now think of as Halloween costumes began as spiritual armor, worn to shield families from forces beyond the veil. Food also played a vital role. Families left offerings outside their homes for returning ancestors, while within the community, feasts were shared in honor of the dead. Apples, nuts, and specially baked cakes were common, and games of divination were performed, attempting to glimpse the future in the flicker of candlelight or the fall of fruit. Each of these rituals reflected the dual nature of Samhain. It was a time of fear and reverence, of endings and beginnings, of honoring the dead while preparing for survival. Every flame, every mask, and every offering was a reminder that humanity was part of a cosmic cycle, inseparable from both the seen and unseen worlds. When we look at Samhain today, across the gulf of centuries, it may seem like a distant relic of a vanished culture, but the essence of Samhain speaks a language that is still familiar to us. At its core, it was about facing the reality of endings and embracing the promise of renewal. The Celts understood that every harvest must be followed by decay, and every cycle of light must descend into darkness before a new dawn can emerge. Samhain was their way of honoring this truth, not with despair, but with reverence. By lighting fires, wearing masks, and offering food, they acknowledged the inevitability of change and sought harmony with it. For us, in the modern world, the message remains powerful. We may not depend on the harvest for survival in the same way, but we still live within cycles of growth and decline, of loss and renewal. Samhain reminds us that endings are not failures, but necessary transitions. In every loss, there is the seed of something new. Perhaps this is why Samhain has never truly disappeared. It survives in Halloween, in seasonal traditions, and in the timeless human need to connect with both our past and the cosmos that shapes us. Samhain was more than a festival of fire and masks. It was a profound recognition of humanity's place within the cycles of nature and the cosmos. The Celts saw that light must yield to darkness, that life must walk hand in hand with death, and that every ending prepares the way for a new beginning. Tonight, when we speak of Samhain, we are not just recalling an ancient ritual. We are listening to the heartbeat of the sun, to a rhythm that still shapes our world. But there is another side to Samhain. one shrouded in mystery and fear. What truly happens when the veil between the worlds grows thin? In the next episode, we will step deeper into the night of Samhain, where spirits cross over and the living prepare to meet them.